Good morning, dear students. Again, welcome back to your history class, and the chapter which I am going to do today is again the continuation of the same chapter, protest movement against colonial rule, and the topic which I am going to do today is Deccan Riots. And before I start with this Deccan Riots, I would like to quickly go through what we did in the previous class. We did about the Indigo Uprising. This is the topic which I started. Indigo Uprising, how the peasants and the cultivators, okay, they were dominated by the indigo planters. So these peasants and the cultivators were forced to grow indigo instead of wheat and paddy, and if they refused to do so, they were harsh punishment. They were kept inside the kuti, they were confined in the kuti, okay, as a punishment for several days without food and water. Their houses were destroyed, okay, and sometimes they were beaten up also. So they were forced to grow indigo instead of wheat and paddy, because with this indigo the planters, okay, the European planters, they were making a lot of profit. Okay, so they were peasants. Now the peasants, they started to revolt against this indigo planters. Okay, so there were agitation which started, it started in Bengal and it spread to different parts of India. Okay, so there were leaders, there were zamindars, local zamindars like Digambar and Vishnu Charan Biswas. They took the lead of this movement, of this Indigo Revolt. Okay, and finally the government came up with this commission, where the Indigo Commission was appointed to keep a record of the complaint. Okay, and not only that, but also there were corrective steps to restrain the planters, and these planters now shifted their plantation from Bengal to Bihar and UP. Okay, so these were the measures which were taken by the government, the British government. Now today I am going to start with this Deccan Riots. Deccan means it is towards the south of India. Like the permanent settlement and the Riots settlement, also this, like the permanent settlement was a settlement between the land settlement, okay, between the peasants and the British, okay, but the middleman here was the zamindars. Okay, so whatever tax was collected from the peasants was given to the British by the zamindars. So the zamindars, they were in the middle and they gave at least 10%. Okay, and in the Riots settlement was direct settlement. There were no zamindars, there were no middlemen. It was a direct settlement between the British and the peasants. So this Riots settlement also became an oppressive method in the Deccan area. So this Riots settlement also did not work in the Deccan. The peasants of the Deccan, now they started to revolt against the exploitation of the landlords and the Mahajan or moneylenders. So the moneylend, now what happened? The peasants of Deccan, they now started to revolt against the moneylenders. Cotton. Now what was the principle, the main product of this Deccan was cotton. They sold cotton and somehow maintained their livelihood. The Kunbi, K-U-N-B-I, now this tribe, K-U-N-B-I, the Kunbi tribe or the Kunbi peasants, they used to borrow money from the local landlords at a very high rate of interest to meet the expenses of cultivation. So to cultivate their land, they needed money. Okay, so this money they borrowed from the money lenders or landlords, and the interest was very, very high. In 1870, the price of cotton in international market, it suddenly came down, and this created a great problem because the Deccan peasants had made investment in cotton cultivation. Now the peasants, okay, they had borrowed money from the money lenders, thinking that they would pay back this money from the cotton which was produced in their field. But what happened? The price of the cotton, it fell down in the international market, and what happened now? The peasants, they were not able to make any profit. Okay, so this way this created a lot of problem. The Kunbi peasants, they made land mortgage. Now what is mortgage? M-O-R, mortgage, M-O-R-T-G-A-G-E, mortgage means it was a contract which was signed between the moneylenders and the peasants. And the peasants, they borrowed money from the moneylenders for cultivation of the land. And they signed a contract with the moneylenders. When they borrowed this money, they signed a contract with the moneylenders that they would return this amount along with the interest after a certain period of time. Okay, so this is known as mortgage. Okay, and the peasants, they had to submit their land deeds. So the land deed, okay, for the time being, until and unless the money was paid back to the moneylenders, this land papers were given to the moneylenders. Okay, this was known as mortgage. They kept the land as mortgage. So after they returned back their money, then the moneylenders also returned back their land or the papers, land papers. So the Kumbi peasants, now what, they were in loss. So what did they do? They made land mortgage to the moneylenders, and who took advantage? Now these moneylenders, they took advantage of the situation to capture those lands. This implied an increase in the transfer of holdings from peasant to moneylenders who were not resident of the village. Okay, so what did the moneylenders do? Now the moneylenders, they took this advantage. They did not want to give back this land to the villagers or the moneylenders. Okay, and this way now, what happened? These moneylenders, they took control. Okay, they took control over the land of the peasants. The immovable property of the Kunbi were also sold to recover loan. Now this immovable property means like houses, land of the peasants were also sold to recover the loan which was taken. In Pune and Ahmednagar district, the peasants at first socially boycotted the moneylenders. So at first the peasants boycotted the money lenders. When this measure failed, the Kunbi peasants, they rose in revolt. Okay, so the Kunbi, they rose in revolt against the moneylenders. They attacked the houses of the moneylenders, they burned down the debt record, and they also burned down the houses. This lead was given by the man named Kenglia. Okay, K-E-N-G-L-I-A. So who took the lead? K-E-N-G-L-I-A. Kenglia was the leader of this Kunbi tribe. He was arrested. His arrest broke the moral of the Kunbi tribe. So when he was arrested, the moral of the Kunbi tribe was broken. The authority, now the British authority passed an act which was known as the Deccan Land Act to protect the interest of the peasants. And this act, what it did, restricted the loan on mortgage of property, and the deed of contract or mortgage had to be registered in the government office. Now instead of going directly to the moneylenders, okay, taking the loan and giving their land as mortgage, now what they had to do? They had to directly go to the government office. Okay, this had to be done legally. Okay, all the paperwork had to be done legally now. In Bombay province, the Ramosi tribal peasants, they also revolted against the Zamindar and the Mahajans. The British army suspended the Ramosi tribal movement. So this way, in different places, they were all this type of movement, okay, against the moneylenders, against the zamindars in different places. But this type of movement was suppressed by the British. Again in 1870s to 1880s, there occurred a Kora rebellion. Again Kora, another tribe, K-O-Y-A. Okay, Kora rebellion in eastern Godavari area of present Andhra Pradesh. The movement reflected the problem faced by the tribal, like the erosion of customary rights over forest. The exploitation by moneylenders who began to control the life of the Koyas through loans and land transfers. So again here what happened? Here again another revolt started, the Kora Revolt started. It was the Koya tribes who started the revolt in Andhra Pradesh. And again there were a lot of problems which were faced by the tribals, like erosion of their customary right over the forest. They did not have the right over the forest, and they were exploited by the moneylenders. Okay, because moneylenders, they took control over the life of the Koya people, and the loan, again same thing, they had taken loan from the moneylenders and they kept the land as mortgage, and now the moneylenders did not want to return back the land to the peasants. Then Toma, again T-O-M-M-A, Toma, T-O-M-M-A, Toma Dora. Okay, the name of the leader, Toma, T-O-M-M-A-D-O-R-A. Who was Toma Dora? Toma Dora, he was the leader of this Koya movement. And he was held by the Koyas. The Koya tribe called him the king of Malkangiri. Okay, Malkangiri, Malkangiri. He was hailed, or he was named, or he was called as the king of Malkangiri. The movement collapsed very soon after Dora was shot dead by the police. Okay, so this was about the Deccan Riots. Now moving on to the Munda Uprising. So we finished with the Deccan Riots, and the next topic is the Munda Uprising. M-U-N-D-A-U-P-R-I-S-I-N-G, Uprising. Munda Uprising, 1900. This was in 1900. The Mundas are one of the ancient origins of India. That means this Munda was the ancient tribal people who lived in India. They lived in and around Hazaribagh and Ranchi district of Bihar. Like the other tribal people, the Munda believed that land was the gift of the god, and every people of the community, they had the full right on the land. So these Mundas, they lived in Hazaribagh and Ranchi, and they believed that these were the tribal people, and they believed that this forest area was the gift of God to each and every person, and each and every person, they had the right over this land or forest. Then their land system, so they had their own land system, and this was known as Kundkati, which means collective ownership of the land. Collective ownership means collectively, okay, as a group, collectively they owned the land. The Mundas accepted Christianity with the belief that German missionaries would set things right by checking the malpractices of the zamindars, forced labor, colonial land revenue system, and erosion of the customary right on the forest land. Now, these Munda people, they converted themselves to Christianity, thinking that the Germans would help them, okay, or protect them from the zamindars, okay, and will give them, will give them the right over the forest, okay, and save them from the malpractices of the zamindars. Then, in fact, around 1857, some zamindars attacked the German mission at Ranchi, as it had expressed sympathy for the Mundas. So again, some of the zamindars, they attacked the German missionary, because German missionary had tried to help the Mundas, okay, and the German missionaries were attacked by the zamindars. The expansion of British land revenue system in Hazaribagh and Ranchi caused discontent among the Mundas. So because of this, because of the policy of the British, because of the expansion of British land revenue system, this created a lot of problem in this region, okay, the Munda region. They resented, that means they were not happy. The Mundas were not happy. Why? Because the rate of tax was very, very high. The moneylenders also cheated and exploited the simple-minded Mundas. So the Mundas were exploited and cheated by the moneylenders. From onwards 1858, we get references from the Christian tribals resisting oppressive zamindars. So again, from 1858, we get lot of references to the Christian tribals resisting oppressive. They were against the zamindars. Okay, the Mundas were totally, now they started to revolt. They were against the zamindars. In 1879, the Mundas claimed that Chota Nagpur belonged to them. So in 1879, the Mundas also claimed that this Chota Nagpur area, this region, belonged to the Mundas. In 1881, some Sardars led by John the Baptist set up a kingdom at Doisa, but gradually they became dissatisfied with the German missionaries and turned to the Catholic mission. Okay, so this all tells us about that how the Mundas, they revolt, they went against the zamindars and the British authority. The colonial officers, their agents and the local zamindars, they came closer to each other to suppress the movement. So again, the British officers, the zamindars, their local agents, they all came together, and now they wanted to suppress this movement, the revolt started by the Mundas. Naturally, the Mundas started movement against all the Europeans, including the Christian missionaries, of colonial officers and money lenders, etc. So Mundas also on the other side, now they started movement against the British officers, the zamindars and the other local leaders. Then Birsa Munda, again this is important, Birsa Munda, B-I-R-S-A, Birsa Munda, M-U-N-D-A. Who was he? Birsa Munda, he was the leader of this Munda Uprising. So he came forward to take the lead of this movement against the oppression and exploitation of the moneylenders and the British, or let's say the colonial officers. He was the son of a poor Munda sharecropper. Okay, he was the son of a sharecropper. Sharecropper, again, it's a person, share, S-H-A-R-E-C-R-O-P-P-E-R. Sharecropper means a person who enters into an agreement with the landlord. So landlord and the peasants, okay, they will sign an agreement to farm the land and then pay the portion of the produce as rent. Okay, the peasants and the moneylender, they will sign an agreement. The peasant will agree to cultivate the land, and whatever is produced, okay, from that land, a part of whatever is grown, okay, will be given to the moneylender or the landlord as a rent. So Birsa Munda, he was the son of sharecropper. He had some schooling under Christian missionary, but ultimately deserted them, left this Christian missionary when he felt that the missionary wanted to baptize him. And Birsa Munda, he declared that land belonged to all the Mundas and they should fight to free those land from the British. So he believed that this land belonged to the Mundas and now they should free those lands from the British. In 1895, he was arrested and he was sent to prison. After he was released from jail, he gave a call to destroy all who oppressed the Mundas. So after he was released, he called all the tribal people and he now wanted to go against the moneylenders and the colonial officers. Thus, the revolt started against the zamindar, contractors, moneylenders, police and the Christians too. The Mundas then attacked the police station, churches, government offices with their primitive weapons. Okay, with their primitive weapons like bows and arrows, okay, axe. And they gave heroic resistance against the British authority. So they heroically fought against the British. Ultimately, the movement was suppressed. Birsa Munda, he was arrested and he died in jail. Many Mundas were hanged to death and many others were sent to Andaman and Nicobar Island. Okay, so Birsa Munda was arrested. After this, many Mundas, they were hanged to death and many were sent to Andaman and Nicobar, Andaman jail. At last, the government agreed to pacify them. Pacify means to give little satisfaction, okay, to satisfy them, to make them little happy by reintroducing the Munda traditional, the Kunkati system. Okay, so now what did the British do? Again, British wanted to make these tribal people little happy or satisfied, and again reintroduced this Kunkati system, okay, which the Munda used to practice before, the collective ownership of the forest or land. Okay, so this way the British again tried to solve this problem of the Mundas. Okay, so with this we are done with this chapter. So today I did Deccan Riots, two topics. Deccan Riots, how in South India the tribal people, especially the Kunbi tribe, they fought against the zamindars and the moneylenders because their land, okay, were taken away by the moneylenders, okay, and the zamindars. So they fought against those moneylenders for their land. And Munda Uprising, again similar to the Deccan Riots, here again the Mundas also fought for their land, okay. So they fought with the colonial officers and the moneylenders, okay, in order to get back their land. And finally this problem was solved by the British. At least this Mundas were pacified, okay. Little satisfaction was given to the Mundas by introducing again this Kudkhati system, okay. So again, yeah, Birsa Munda, he played a very important role in this Munda uprising. So with this I end with this chapter, protest movement against the colonial rule.